The hour of convening having arrived, all members of the House will please report to the floor and take seats. All members of this House will please report to the floor. We are going to have the morning roll call soon. Clerk will ring the bell. All members will please take their seats. We are about to have the afternoon roll call. All members present will please vote green to signify their presence in the chamber, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines. Well, good afternoon. I hope all of you have had a good weekend and are ready for a productive week. And you know what? It's already been a pretty good week. I'm sure that most of you, if not all of you, know by now that the state Senate has finally passed House Bill 159. And I want to say to this body how much I appreciate the unity and bipartisan support that was given to what was a very, very important piece of legislation that will matter to our most vulnerable here in Georgia. And I have to give a special shout out to one of our members who for 3 years worked tirelessly to make sure that bill got passed. Help me thank Representative Burt Reeves. Doorkeepers will please close the doors and keep them closed. We will begin our day with scripture reading and prayer by the chaplain, after which we will pledge allegiance to the flag of our country. Our chaplain this afternoon will be introduced by the gentleman from the 132nd House District, Representative Buzz Brockway. Representative Brockway.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a blessing for me to stand up here again and bring another one of my pastors to minister to us here today. I've got Pastor Montel Jordan with me here today. And as it's kind of a funny little story, as I was preparing to do this, I was talking with one of my colleagues, and I said, yeah, I think we've got it worked out for Pastor Montel Jordan to come down. And he kind of looked at me and he said, you mean the Shake Heaven guy? And for those of you who listen to Christian radio, you know what I'm talking about. And then as we got it all the details worked out, and I was filling out the final form to bring it over to Miss Leisha in the speaker's office, showed it to my administrative assistants, and they said, that name looks very familiar. And I really only had to say a couple words. They said, well, this is how we do it. And they immediately knew. So, yes, he is the this is how we do it guy. He's also the Shake Heaven guy. But we're blessed at Victory World Church to know him in a lot of other capacities as well. He's obviously a talented songwriter. He's a worship leader. He's an artist. He's a musician. He's also a pastor that delivers the Word of God with compassion and power. And he's a husband and a father. And he's a native of Southern California. And we're grateful that the Lord brought him here to Atlanta, to our church. And he's also, among many other things, an author. And here's his latest book called This Is How We Do It, Making Your Marriage a Masterpiece. And lately, Pastor Montel and his wife, Kristen, he co-wrote the book with her, have been ministering in our church to marriages. We have a very strong marriage ministry, and we're doing everything we can to strengthen marriages. I'm a part of that ministry. I'm blessed to be a part of that ministry and lead a Bible study going through some curriculum. But we've got a conference this weekend that Pastor Montel and his wife, Kristen, and the team have organized. It's sold out. And Pastor Montel was telling me over 600 couples will be there working on their marriages, trying to make them stronger and blessed in the Lord. So I pray that you open your hearts today and hear the word of the Lord as Pastor Montel brings it to us. Pastor Montel.
Good afternoon, everyone. To the Speaker of the House, distinguished guest, it's an honor and a privilege to be here speaking before the House on this first Monday in February 2018. I am Montel Jordan. I get the awesome opportunity to be an executive pastor at Victory World Church in Norcross, Georgia. Our senior pastors are Dennis and Colleen Rouse, and I serve in men's ministry and music ministry and marriage ministry, as Buzz was saying. I consider Buzz to be a friend as well as a well-respected leader that I look up to or down to because of my size. And I am humbled and appreciative for your invitation to be here today. Just yesterday, February 4th, our church turned 28 years old. And that's unique. I should say what's unique about Victory is that we have 139 different nations of people represented in our ministry, making it one of the most multicultural churches in America. This is abnormal. This is the South. And this is accomplished through something called intentionality. A room like this is done by something called intentionality. As a graduate of Pepperdine University, I'm now a pastor, but I never attended seminary or Bible college. However, it was my journey from music into ministry that prepared me for what I'm doing now at my church as well as what I'm doing here before you today. I'm not certain how many of you may be familiar with my life prior to ministry, but I quite possibly have contributed to the soundtrack of your life. I truly believe music is the soundtrack to our lives. And for example, if you've ever been to a major sporting event, a stadium like at the Super Bowl yesterday, if you've ever been to a party or to a celebration, if you've ever been to a wedding reception, to a bar mitzvah, if you've ever stood in an elevator and heard elevator music, you've probably heard a song, "This is how we do it." First, I'd like to apologize because that song is probably going to be stuck in your head for the rest of the day. That was intentional. Second, if you have never heard that song before and you hold political office, you probably need to get out a little more amongst the people you represent. And thirdly, that song, "This Is How We Do It," has allowed me to have access to the entire world. Whether sanctified or secular, holy or human, it has provided me with a platform to share the goodness of God across racial lines, across party lines, to read between the lines and understand that it's the truth that makes us free. And that's what I want to talk about for just a few minutes before we pray today. I want to talk about the truth. Many might argue that truth is subjective, and I would agree. Truth is subjective, but I'm a words guy, play words with friends, Scrabble, all of that, and I'm not here to talk about truth. I'm here to talk about the truth. See, truth may very well be subjective, but the truth is absolute. Jesus, he has this really close friend by the name of John, and John writes a book. He's the beloved one. He's really close to Jesus, and he writes this book, and he's documenting his time and his proximate relationship with Jesus Christ. And in this dialogue, there's this moment where his friend Jesus is talking, and he makes a statement. He says, I am the way, the truth, and the light. No one comes to the Father except through me. John documents this. I would submit to you that that statement Jesus makes there suggests that there are ways that may not be the way. There is truth that may not be the truth. And there is light that may not be the light. But I want to talk for a moment just about the truth. For example, I've been married to my wife, Kristen, for 23 years. We have 5 kids and a new grandchild. Cool thing. Congratulations on the new adoption bill that was just gone through. I myself was adopted. My oldest son is adopted. And our kids range from the age 30 to 5. They're all 7 to 8 years apart, which basically means I'm a horrible negotiator. But here's the point. Some of y'all will get that on the way home. Here's the point. My wife and I don't always see eye to eye on everything. I've often found that my truth and her truth is not necessarily always the truth, God's truth. Another example, you may be Republican and you have what you believe to be true. You may be Democrat and you have what you believe to be true. No matter what your party affiliation, the reality is your truth, my truth, may not be the truth. It may be a truth. But the truth, if it does not line up with the one who says, I am the way, the truth, and the light, we have to be able to consider that. I want to share with you 2 quick ideas about the truth, and then we're going to pray. The first thing I want to share with you about the truth is that if you want to know the truth, you must go to the source. It's Black History Month. My family is an integral part of Black history. That's American history. This year in October 2018, my family, along with the world, will be celebrating a 50-year anniversary. What are you talking about? Take a journey with me back to 1968, Summer Olympics, Mexico City. The fastest man on the planet at the time was a guy by the name of Tommy Smith. Tommy takes the gold medal in the 200-meter, and in an iconic gesture on the platform, you may be familiar with this, our nation's national anthem is playing, and Tommy raises a fisted glove into the air with his head slightly lowered. He's a protester. He's a dissenter. He's disrespecting America. He's a part of the Black Panther Party. He's a civil rights activist. Dr. Tommy Smith is married to my mom, Dolores Smith. He is my dad. If you were to speak with him, the source, you would find he would share with you the truth. He, along with many other Olympians, determined that they were going to use the platform to take a stand for human rights, not for civil rights, not for Black Panther Party, not for this, not for that, for human rights. They stood for social injustice that was happening all around the world, not just in America. It just so happened to be magnified here because of what was happening in the 60s here at home. If you want to know the truth, you have to go to the source, which brings me to my second and last point. Once you know the truth, you're responsible for it. I'll say that again because it's worth saying again. Once you know the truth, you're responsible for it. We are the United States of America. America has a history that has not always been so pretty. Respectfully, if we don't see an issue with race in America, we're part of the issue. We want to know where we're going. We must acknowledge where we've been. Selective historical amnesia will not get us to the place of unification. It won't make us free. But intentionality in recognizing our past to create a better, more powerful, clear future is the key to not repeat our past national transgressions, but the truth is what will make us free. You guys, I had a list of stuff that I wanted to mention and bring up, but I'd rather just say this. My silence in the face of truth, I should say this, my silence in the face of the truth makes me an accomplice to injustice. Your silence in the face of the truth makes you an accomplice to injustice. I know I'm supposed to be politically correct here, so I can just say I am holding the church to a higher standard, to not remain silent when evil is present. And if we, many of the men and women in this room, if we actually are the church, if the church is not a building or a place, if we are the church, then I pray that the men and women of faith represented in this room today will also be challenged to use your platform like my dad did to make a difference. And you don't have to raise your glove to raise your voice. You can even use your seat to take a stand. You have been given authority, and I'm not speaking about becoming an elected official. I'm talking about, I believe God allows us to be in positions of authority when we understand we are under authority. But I challenge you, I charge you today with your appointed authority to bring more heaven to this earth, because we could really use that right now. And that's the truth. I'm going to ask you to stand with me for a word of prayer. If you would bow your heads, please. Father, I ask you today to strengthen your sons and your daughters. Bless their families with health and with long life. Give them governing wisdom and compassion for the people they are leading. Allow your Holy Spirit to speak to them, allowing both justice and righteousness to navigate their decisions on earth as it is in heaven. I bless the House of Representatives of Georgia, and I ask you to protect them and that their influence would increase as your word, the truth, is carried from their lips, from this house, from their homes to the White House. Everywhere we go, God, that we carry your word on our lips. Bless this day, God, and may we be changed in some way to look more like you. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. And everybody that agreed would say amen. 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 Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Chair recognizes Chairman Darlene Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Information and Audits has read the proceedings from the previous legislative day and found them to be correct.
Chairman Taylor, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns of the 159th moves that the following be established as the order of business during the first part of the period of unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading of reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. First reading of and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 805 by Representative Green of the 151st. Bill to be entitled an act to abolish the office of County Treasurer of Terrell County.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 806 by Representative Benton of the 31st, England of the 116th, and Barr of the 103rd. A bill to be entitled an act to create the Town of Brazelton Public Facilities Authority.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 807 by Representative Spencer of the 180th and Corbett of the 174th. The bill to be entitled an act to provide for the creation of one or more community improvement districts in the city of St. Mary's.
Intergovernmental coordination.
House Bill 808 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th, Corbett of the 174th, Laricchia of the 169th, Shaw of the 176th, and Spencer of the 180th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 15-6-3 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to the terms of superior courts.
Judiciary.
House Bill 809 by Representative Hitchens of the 161st, Lumsden of the 12th, Epps of the 144th, Tanner of the 9th, and Williams of the 145th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-8-91 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to marking and equipment of law enforcement vehicles and motorists allowed to continue to safe location.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 810 by Representative McCall of the 33rd, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 50-14-1 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to meetings open to the public.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 811 by Representative Powell of the 171st, Harrell of the 106th, England of the 116th, Stevens of the 164th, Blackman of the 146th, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to state administrative organization.
Ways and means.
House Bill 812 by Representative Nimmer of the 178th, Corbett of the 174th, Shaw of the 176th, Laricchia of the 169th, Spencer of the 180th. The bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 36-15-9 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to collection of additional costs in court cases.
Judiciary.
House Bill 813 by Representative Coomer of the 14th, Caldwell of the 131st, Turner of the 21st, Bodie of the 62nd, Powell of the 171st. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 24-4-417 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to evidence of similar acts in prosecutions for violations of Code Section 40-6-391.
Judiciary non-civil.
House Bill 814 by Representative Williams of the 145th, Welch of the 110th, Buckner of the 137th, Bentley of the 139th, and Rutledge of the 109th. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 16 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding coroners.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 815 by Representative Martin of the 49th, Willard of the 51st, Coleman of the 97th, England of the 116th, Stevens of the 164th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 40-2-86 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to special license plates.
Motor vehicles.
House Bill 816 by Representatives Bradley of the 67th, Coomer of the 14th, Willard of the 51st, Ballinger of the 23rd, Beskin of the 54th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to state administrative organization.
Ways and means.
House Bill 817 by Representative Clark of the 147th, Powell of the 32nd, Jaspers of the 11th, Hitchens of the 161st, Petrie of the 166th, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 43-38-10 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to permits to carry firearms, proficiency requirement, exemptions from specified laws.
Public safety and homeland security.
House Bill 818 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Smith of the 134th, Newton of the 123rd, Cooper of the 43rd, Hughley of the 136th, and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 24 of Title 33 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to insurance.
Insurance.
House Bill 819 by Representative Smith of the 41st, Jackson of the 64th, Dreyer of the 59th, Stevens of the 165th, and Gordon of the 163rd. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 21 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to elections and primaries.
Governmental affairs.
House Bill 820 by Representative Beskin of the 54th, Jones of the 47th, Martin of the 49th, Price of the 48th, Willard of the 51st, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article 5, Chapter 5, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotator relating to county boards of tax assessors.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 822 by Representative Williams of the 115th. Bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to continue the charter for the Academy of Social Circle.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
House Bill 823 by Representative Kirby of the 114th, England of the 116th, Benton of the 31st. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 44-12-300 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to tribes, bands, groups, or communities recognized by the state as legitimate American Indian tribes.
Judiciary.
House Bill 824 by Representative Mosby of the 83rd and Wilkerson of the 38th. The bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7, Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to imposition rate computation exemptions from state income tax.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 825 by Representative Williams of the 145th, Collins of the 68th, Gravely of the 67th, Bentley of the 139th, Hitchens of the 161st. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 16 of Title 45 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to death investigations.
Judiciary Non-Civil.
House Bill 826 by Representative Cobble of the 111th, Welch of the 110th, and Rutledge of the 109th. The bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 35 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to general provisions regarding law enforcement officers and agencies.
Regulated Industries.
House Bill 827 by Representative Kelly of the 16th, Powell of the 171st, England of the 116th, McCall of the 33rd, Rhodes of the 120th, and others. Bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 2 of Chapter 7 of Title 48 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to imposition rate computation and exemptions from income tax.
Ways and Means.
House Resolution 1015 by Representative Spencer of the 180th and Corbett of the 174th, resolution recognizing Captain Corey Paul Tyler, dedicating an interchange in his memory.
Transportation.
House Resolution 1016 by Representative Bennett of the 94th, Cooper of the 43rd, Smyrie of the 135th, Frazier of the 126th, Hughley of the 136th, and others. Resolution recognizing and proclaiming the necessity for diabetes education in this state.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 1017 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, Watson of the 172nd, Belton of the 112th, LaRicchia of the 169th, Coleman of the 97th. Resolution encouraging all schools, local educational agencies, and the state educational agency to recognize that dyslexia has a profound educational impact and must be addressed.
Education.
House Resolution 1036 by Representative Kendrick of the 93rd, Glanton of the 75th, Carter of the 92nd, and Chandler of the 105th. A resolution urging the state of Georgia to fund a public awareness campaign in support of computer science education.
Science and Technology.
Senate Bill 270 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd. Bill to be entitled an act to amend an act incorporating and providing a new charter for the city of Trenton in Dade County.
Intergovernmental Coordination.
Through with the first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 788 by Representative Stovall of the 74th, a bill relating to organization of schools and school systems under the Quality Basic Education Act. House Bill 789 by Representative Fleming of the 121st, a bill relating to labor and industrial relations. House Bill 790 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a bill relating to the Office of State Administrative Hearings. House Bill 791 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a bill relating to waiver of sovereign immunity as to tax actions, ex contractu, and state tort claims. House Bill 792 by Representative Rogers of the 10th, a bill relating to waste management. House Bill 793 by Representative LaRicchia of the 169th, a bill relating to general provisions regarding estate sales and use tax. House Bill 794 by Representative Scott of the 76th, a bill relating to lottery for education. House Bill 795 by Representative Gravely of the 67th, a bill relating to the Department of Labor. House Bill 796 by Representative Corbett of the 174th, a bill relating to exemptions from state sales and use taxes. House Bill 797 by Representative LaRicchia of the 169th, a bill relating to special license plates promoting certain beneficial projects. House Bill 798 by Representative Ballinger of the 23rd, a bill relating to special license plates promoting certain beneficial projects. House Bill 799 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd, a bill relating to patient protection under managed health care plans. House Bill 800 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, a bill relating to administration related to workers' compensation. House Bill 801 by Representative Hilton of the 95th, a bill relating to elementary and secondary education. House Bill 82 by Representative Willard of the 51st, a bill relating to procedure for sentencing and imposition of punishment and grants of pardons, paroles, and other relief. House Bill 803 by Representative Willard of the 51st, a bill relating to protection of elder persons. House Bill 804 by Representative Clark of the 147th, a bill relating to affixing of materials which reduce light transmission or increase light reflectance through windows or windshields. House Bill 821 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a bill relating to revenue and taxation. House Resolution 991 by Representative Scott of the 76th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to authorize the General Assembly to provide for the proceeds of one or more lottery games to benefit homeless military veterans. House Resolution 992 by Representative Tanner of the 9th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to authorize the use of local sales and use taxes for educational purposes for maintenance and operation expenses of the school system. House Resolution 993 by Representative F. Stration of the 104th, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to create a business court with statewide jurisdiction. Senate Bill 257 by Senator Heath of the 31st, a bill relating to general provisions relative to animals. Through second readers.
House will be in order. Chair recognizes the chair of the Health and Human Services Committee, Chairman Cooper, to introduce the Doctor of the Day.
Hello, I'm fine, sir. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure to introduce the Doctor of the Day, Dr. Tom Halton. He's an emergency room physician, a Mississippian by birth, but he's been in the Atlanta area for close to 32 years. Like I say, he's an emergency room physician. He has been very active in our community with the Boy Scouts and the EMS group, but he has two very special things about him. First of all, now that they've signed the adoption bill, I will tell you that he saved one of the senators' lives last year. He actually saved her life when he was here as Doctor of the Day. And the second thing is, he is the rock behind one of the newest senators, Senator Kay Kirkpatrick, who means that I now have a senator that I can work with. So, please help me welcome Dr. Halton.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, representatives, and guests, I appreciate the opportunity to serve as MAG Doctor of the Day. Please come see me in the medical station for any questions or concerns. Thank you.
Hey, Dr. Halton.
This House will come to order. We're about to go on to morning orders. But before we do, the chair wants to recognize on the floor of the House a very distinguished former member of this body, former State Representative Lynn Walker. And I didn't see him, but I understand former State Representative Bobby Lawson from Gainesville and his wife, Sissy, who's the former mayor of Gainesville. If you have signed up for a morning order, please make your way to the front of the chamber. The chair recognizes Representatives Elam and all the members of the Military Affairs Working Group. for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a continuation of our Military Affairs Working Group, inviting our commanding generals of our bases to address the House, tomorrow we will have General Crenshaw of our Marine Corps Logistics Base with us to speak to the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Representative Buckner for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, during the 2016 legislative session, this House did an extraordinary thing when dealing with a very ordinary matter. Senate Resolution 954 that year was the annual resolution to authorize the granting of non-exclusive easements for the construction and maintenance of facilities or roads to go across or through or under state-owned property. Contained in that bill were easements that were requested on behalf of the Sable Trail Transmission, which is a pipeline. The easement that they requested went under several of our rivers, the Chattahoochee, the Flint, the Oglockney, the Withlacoochee, and the Hanahatchee. As guardians of Georgia's waterways, giving an easement under those waterways was a great concern for the state and for this House. And to have that company transporting gas through that pipeline when they had no Georgia customers made us be incredibly nervous and concerned because of the fact that it was impinging upon private property owners' rights as well as the state's concern for the water. As a result of a very enlightening speech by former Representative Regina Quick, we voted to pass the easements without the easements for Sable Trail. At a later date, Sable Trail sued the state and got permission to run the pipe under our rivers. Last Friday, the U.S. District Federal Appellate Court in Washington upheld a lower court decision to say that FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, had not paid close enough attention to the environmental concerns raised by this House. If Sable Trail does not receive an emergency certification by Wednesday of this week, they will not be able to use the transmission lines that they put in. And I am asking you to do one more thing that would be an ordinary thing that could have a very extraordinary outcome. That is for you to call your U.S. Congressman and call your U.S. Senator and ask them to ask FERC to deny the emergency certification for Sable Trail. This was a terrible plan. It went through very dangerous environmental areas. They've run roughshod over the landowners, and they are taking a small amount of gas through our state in a huge 36-inch in diameter pipe to another state and do not have one Georgia customer. They do not have a Georgia customer. This is not helping the state of Georgia. So I ask you to not remain silent and oppose this once again flawed process and call your senator or your congressman and ask them not to give the emergency certification to Sable Trail. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Metz for a morning order. Chair recognizes Representative Bennett for a morning order.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I rise to recognize Black History Month, a moment in time, and today also being African Methodist Episcopal Day at the Capitol, AME Day as we call it, I stand proudly to recognize the work of Bishop Henry Mcneal Turner. Some of you may, as you exit this chamber and go to the left, a portrait of Bishop Mcneal Turner hangs in our wonderful Capitol. Henry Mcneal Turner was born free in South Carolina on February the 1st, 1834, to Sarah Greer and Hardy Turner, both of African and European descent. His paternal grandmothers were of a white woman and a black man, and under slave law, her mixed race indicated that all of her children would be deemed free. At the time, South Carolina prohibited teaching blacks to read and write, but when Henry Mcneal Turner became an apprentice and worked in South Carolina in a law firm, he was taught how to read and to write. At the age of 14, Henry Mcneal Turner was inspired by a Methodist revival and swore to become a pastor. He received his preacher's license at the age of 19 from the Methodist Church South in 1853. In 1858, he moved with his family to St. Louis, Missouri, fearing that members of his family might be kidnapped and sold into slavery. In St. Louis, Turner became ordained as a minister of the African Methodist Episcopal Church and studied classics such as Hebrew and divinity at Trinity College. Now, when the Civil War broke out, Turner was still training in Baltimore. In 1862, he was assigned to the largest AME church in Washington, D.C. During the American Civil War, Turner organized one of the first regiments of black troops, Company B of the 1st United States Colored Troops, and was appointed as its chaplain. After the war, Turner was appointed by President Andrew Johnson to work with Freedmen's Bureau in Georgia during Reconstruction. Following the Civil War, Turner became politically active with the Republican Party, whose officials had led the war effort under Abraham Lincoln. Under Abraham Lincoln's Confederacy, he helped found the Republican Party of Georgia. Turner ran for office from Macon and was elected to the Georgia legislature in 1868. At that time, the Democratic Party still controlled the legislature and refused to seat Turner and 26 other newly elected black legislators, all Republicans. After the federal government protested, the Democrats allowed Turner and his fellow legislators to take their seats during the legislative session. It is my honor to stand and report that when Turner joined the AME Church in 1858, its members lived mostly in the northern and border states, totaling about 20,000. At the completion of his ministerial career, Turner had grown the church to more than 452,000 members nationally. In 1880, Turner was elected as the first bishop from the South in the AME Church. Turner's portrait adorns the walls of this great state capitol along with 4 other African Americans. One, most notably, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Second, Mr. Leroy Johnson, the first African male to be elected to the Georgia Senate in 1962 through 1974. Mrs. Lucy Laney, a person who organized schools in the Augusta area. And the Honorable Grace Towns, the first African American black female to be elected to this House. Mr. Speaker, thank you, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Carter for a morning order.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the House. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this time. On Friday, February the 2nd, it was National Go Red for Women Day, but we were not in session. So today we are bringing awareness to cardiovascular disease in women. So if you see the ladies who are in red and some of the gentlemen wore their ties, they are joining in with us. A couple of things I'd like for you to know. Cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer in women. Every 80 seconds, a woman dies from cardiovascular disease. 80% of cardiovascular disease can be prevented. So there are a couple of things, if you're listening, if you want to take a pen, we'd like for you to begin to take note of. There are 5 things that you can do to take control of your heart health. One is to know your cholesterol numbers. Know your HDL cholesterol, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, and your body mass index. Additionally, each of you should have this flyer on your desk. On the left side of the flyer, it talks about the blood pressure and knowing your numbers. And on the right side of the flyer, it talks about women and heart disease. As women, we have to be our own heart hero. Again, heart disease is the #1 killer in women. A few symptoms that you can take note of is if you're having pain in your arm, neck, jaw, or your back, if there's chest pain or discomfort, shortness of breath, nausea or vomiting, and other signs. And this is one that had I known the night before I actually had my attack on my heart, was cold sweats. The evening before I was having cold sweats, I had no idea that this was one of the symptoms. Unusually tired, I was tired, and trouble sleeping. I just thought that I had been running around too much and needed to rest. So these are just a few things that you could take note of, and a few unique factors to women are menopause, many ovarian cysts, and high blood pressure or diabetes when you are pregnant. So these are things that we hope that you all would take note of. Again, this is Go Red for Women, and hopefully we can extend or save a few more lives by the information that we've shared today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you, Mr. Speaker. We yield the will.
Chair recognizes Representative Gilliard for a morning order.
Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, my brothers and sisters of the House of Representatives. Today, I rise to just remind you that education in life is very essential if we want to do our best. If I were a rapper, I'd say you got to give your all in this world, or give or take. Don't settle for less. Start with education for a new beginning, and we make the grade, we'll be winning. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so let's all pick up the pace. We're picking up the pace in Savannah Chatham County schools. We have 8 schools with us here today, representing from elementary, middle school, and high school. And would you give them a great people's welcome for all of these 8 schools from Savannah Chatham Public School System? Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Gravely for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members of this House, in 2014, Georgia began down a path rather a fight for medical cannabis oil access. One of our own members, Representative Alan Peake, championed this cause. Along the way, many of us in this body, both Republicans and Democrats, joined in on this effort. Today, 3,000 Georgia patients and 500 medical doctors have joined Georgia's low THC CBD oil registry. As a matter of fact, the U.S. government agrees with the fact that medical cannabis does have medical value. So much so that 15 years prior to Georgia's initiative in 2003, they actually sought and were approved for U.S. Patent 6630507. And I'd like to read to you a little bit about what that patent says. It says that the following cannabidiol has been found to have medical benefit in stroke and trauma and serves as a neuroprotectant for diseases such as Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and HIV dementia. More recently, of August 2017, the National Institute of Health, which is the U.S. gold standard in medical science, started funding the first ever long-term study to research the impact of medical cannabis on opioid use. April 2016, the United States Drug Enforcement Agency, better known as the DEA, has granted approval of clinical trials assessing the therapeutic use of medical cannabis to treat post-traumatic stress disorder, or PTSD, among our veterans. Ladies and gentlemen, both supporters and opponents of this particular issue over the last 4 years have recognized that Congress now must act. Congress must make a decision. Today, I am joined by members of this body on both sides of the aisle, recognizing that fact. Today, I'm proud to stand with Representative Vernon Jones and his resolution urging Congress to reschedule marijuana, to reschedule medical cannabis for medical purposes, allowing our research institutes, allowing our medical professionals here in the state to research this substance without fear of losing funding or licensure. I would ask that the members of this body consider signing on to this resolution. Whether or not you are for or against, I believe we all recognize it's time for the United States Congress to make a decision on this topic for the betterment of our nation and for the 3,000 patients in Georgia that have received medical, life-changing benefits from this medical cannabis oil. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes the Majority Caucus Whip, Representative Coomer, for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Some of you asked me why you have Anheuser-Busch cans on your desk. It's so when Chairman England presents the budget, he can line them up here across the front. No, I'm just kidding. Anheuser-Busch's production facility in Bartow County was featured in a Super Bowl ad last night. And in case y'all missed that ad, I want to share it with you now.
I'll be right there.
Now, the storm is affecting thousands of families, people still in desperate need of aid.
When the night has come,
Where we at? We've got cans ordered and busy.
and the land is dark, and the moon is the only light we'll see. No, I won't be afraid. No, I won't be afraid. Just as long as you stand by me. So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by
Did y'all enjoy that? Over the last 30 years, Anheuser-Busch employees have provided more than 79 million cans of clear drinking water to disaster relief efforts around the U.S. Since 1998, the brewery at Cartersville has been the sole source of Anheuser-Busch's emergency water donations. However, Anheuser-Busch has partnered with Red Cross since 1906 to provide disaster relief across the U.S. and around the world. Last year alone, Anheuser-Busch donated 1.7 million cans of drinking water and contributed more than $1 million to Red Cross disaster giving programs. And I'm proud to represent the men and women of the Anheuser-Busch Company in Cartersville who make all this possible. Thank you very much.
Chair recognizes Representative Metz for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I will take Representative Al Williams' advice. I will not repeat what was said earlier about Bishop Henry Mcneal Turner. If you would just check the desk, I have placed there are two pages that I have placed on your desk, and I will not insult your intelligence by reading it. But I'd like to say that Bishop Henry Mcneal Turner, I was able to do my research many, many years ago when I found out that Bishop Turner and my great-grandfather, Reverend Robert Baxter Green, a descendant of Dahomey in West Africa, worked together in the state of South Carolina in the AME Church. And as most people know, he left. So if you could just read the information, what I would like to do is to invite all of you this evening at my church, Big Bethel AME Church, where we are having the Henry Mcneal Turner Alumni Hall of Fame Honors and Lifetime Achievement Program. And one of our former representative, Dee Dawkins, will be receiving the President's Lifetime Achievement Award. Thank you very much. And as I said to my friend in the back, he said, "Where is the portrait?" And I said, as you enter the door, if you would just turn to the right, the second portrait is Bishop Henry Mcneal Turner, a giant of a man, a giant of a man, and the bishop of the African Methodist Episcopal Church. He was an author, an editor, a human rights advocate, and fervent proponent of the Back to Africa movement. And I told someone if I were around back then, I think I would have held his hand and we would have advocated for it together. Thank you very much. Okay.
This House will be in order. House will come to order. We are about to recognize and honor some very, very distinguished Georgians. The clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 1037.
House Resolution 1037 by Representative Ralston of the 7th, recognizing and commending Staff Sergeant Nicholas Davis and for other purposes.
You know, sometimes we forget, I think, that we truly represent some amazing people. And I was reminded of that back last summer when I learned of the heroism of Sergeant Nicholas Davis from LJ, 2010 graduate of Gilmer High School. Served a tour of duty in Afghanistan, a tour of duty in Iraq, and last summer was stationed at Fort Campbell in Kentucky and was coming home for the weekend. Here's one of my favorite parts of the story. He was coming home to help his girlfriend bale hay. That's a good man. As he was driving through Tennessee, he came upon a overturned vehicle, and nobody was stopping, but he stopped. And as he ran to the vehicle, he noticed that there was a fire underneath. It was a family that was moving from one Tennessee town to another, and were transporting some gas for a lawnmower in the back of an SUV, and had a wreck. The fuel had ignited. The couple was trapped inside. This young man rescued both of those people from that vehicle even after it exploded and wrapped him in fire. And he was treated for severe burns. The lady was treated for some very, very severe burns. I think she was hospitalized for more than 3 months. And he didn't even know who they were until he was back at the hospital one day and was given a letter by the personnel there from a daughter that he didn't read the letter to me because it made him cry. I know it'd make me cry. But he has just been given the Soldier's Medal, which is the highest commendation that a member of the United States military can receive for peacetime valor. And let me tell you what his commanding officer said. As a lesser man, a lesser soldier, a lesser person, never would have stopped, let alone gone in 2 separate times and pulled the couple to safety. We're honoring his acts that are an example for us all. It's who we should be, no matter what the endeavor, and how we should act when we come across an event like Staff Sergeant Nicholas Bruce Davis did. I want you to help me say thank you and to honor this outstanding Georgian, Sergeant Bruce Davis of LJ.
Thank you, everyone. First and foremost, I'd like to thank my God and family for the continuous support throughout my military career. I'm not much for words, so thank you for everyone for everything you've done, and thank you, Speaker Rawson.
Clerk will read the caption to House Resolution 951.
House Resolution 951 by Representative Hogan of the 179th, Jones of the 167th, Kelly of the 16th, Blackman of the 146th, McGowan of the 138th, and others, commending Chuck Moore, the 2017 Georgia Golf Course Superintendent of the Year, and for other purposes.
Chair recognizes Representative Hogan for an invite resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the House. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to do what I'm doing today, and for a cousin of mine who was Superintendent of the Year for all the golf courses in the state of Georgia. Chuck Moore, and I'll read the resolution commending Chuck Moore to 2017 Golf Course Superintendent of the Year and for other purposes. Whereas Chuck Moore has been superintendent for award-winning King and Prince Golf Course in St. Simons Island, Georgia for 23 years and has received the coveted award of Superintendent of the Year for 2017 for Golf Course Superintendents Association. Whereas a graduate of Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College in Tifton, Georgia, Chuck Moore received his turf degree and graduated with honors while completing a fall internship at the King and Prince Golf Course. And whereas his long career that began as part of the golf maintenance crew in 1995 and brought him full circle back to St. Simons Island as head superintendent in 2000, where he has excelled throughout numerous renovations and golf course transformations. And whereas the Georgia GCSA Award is given to an individual who has expressed outstanding dedication, care, and commitment to the Georgia Golf Course Superintendents Association and golf industry at large and his or her community. And whereas the association has 735 individual members. Now, he was picked out of 735, making it one of the largest chapters of Golf Course Superintendent Associations of America, from which Chuck Moore was selected as the recipient of this great honor. Whereas it is abundantly fitting and proper for this body to honor the extraordinary work and accomplishments of this exemplary Georgian. Now, therefore, be resolved by the House of Representatives that the members of this body commend Chuck Moore, the 2017 Golf Course Superintendent of the Year, and express their most sincere best wishes for continued success. Be it further resolved that the Clerk of the House of Representatives is authorized to direct to make an appropriate copy of this resolution available for distribution to Chuck Moore. Representative Jeff Jones, King and Prince Golf Course is in his district, and he allowed me to do this because Chuck is a cousin of mine, probably the only one that succeeded in the family to this honor. If you've played the King and Prince Golf Course, you know what a fine golf course it is. You people in Augusta have a golf course up there, but this is just as fine a golf course, I can assure you. Yes, it is. Chuck's wife is with him, Connie, and it's Caden, his son, and Connor, his other son. So I'd like you to welcome them to this house. Also, Rick Maddox, who's the general manager of the King and Prince Golf Course, is here with us today, and he's been there for quite some time. Chuck has been at the golf course for some 23 years. So I'd like to introduce Chuck Moore, the recipient, at this time. Thank you.
Yes, sir. I just want to say thank you to Mr. Hogan, also Mr. Jeff Jones for this resolution. It's quite an honor, and Just want to say thank you to my family for being here and being my support through all the years of being a superintendent. Has a lot of tough hours. We have early mornings and sometimes late nights and holidays. So thank you. And I just want to say thank you also to the King and Prince, the management staff, because Rick Maddox and then Mr. Michael Johnson, which he's out up top, for all their years of support of me and allowing me to craft my work on such a beautiful golf course, and hopefully for many more years to come. And also just thank you for the Glenn County community for their support. It's been so much overwhelming. We've had 3 major storms in the past year, and their support of the golf course has just been tremendous. And lastly, I just want to say thank you to the Golf Course Associations for awarding me this award. It's with all the many fine golf courses in the state, many fine superintendents. It's such a high honor for me. So thank you very much.
We are going on to the rules calendar. We're going on to the rules calendar. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 701.
House Bill 701 by Representative Tanner of the 9th, Cooper of the 43rd, Hitchens of the 161st, Newton of the 123rd, and Powell of the 32nd. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 45-20-110 relating to definitions for drug testing and state employment. This bill has been through the Committee on Health and Human Services. That committee recommends this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Tanner to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring before you today House Bill 701. This is legislation that is necessary to get in compliance with some changes that were made by the federal government around transportation drug testing that went into effect January 1st of this year. As you know, we've talked about before that there's a requirement that we stay updated and stay in concurrent consistency with federal law and regulations in order to continue to receive our federal highway money. This would do that. This bill simply adds a couple of things that would allow us to test for semi-synthetic opioids like oxycodone, oxymorphine, hydrocodone, other drugs that we know are more and more commonly being abused today. This in no way would prohibit someone who has a legal medical prescription from being able to get a job with the state. This is for pre-employment drug testing, no additional cost to the state. You do have a substitute also, I believe, with this. I'll go ahead and tell you that substitute is a result of a conversation with the Attorney General's office. They wanted to be careful that we did not unintentionally exclude drugs such as heroin from the pre-employment drug testing, so that substitute is a result of that conversation with them. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You do not appear to have any questions.
I would ask that you strongly support HB 701.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 701? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute approved by the Committee on Rules? The chair hears none. The rules approved substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of House Bill 701 will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 701. The ayes are 159, the nays are 1. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. For what purpose does Representative Body arise?
Mr. Speaker, Representative William Bode, I have a motion for this House today. I motion that HB 748 be moved from Committee on Judicial Civil to the Committee on Regulated Industries. Both chairmen are in agreement to this transfer.
Clerk will read the caption.
House Bill 748 by Representative Body of the 62nd, Gravely of the 67th, Bruce of the 61st, Collins of the 68th, and Alexander of the 66th. A bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 3 of Title 44 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to regulation of specialized land transactions.
On the representative's motion that House Bill 748 be withdrawn from the Judiciary Committee and recommitted to the Regulated Industries Committee. Is there objection? Is there objection? The chair hears none, and it is so ordered. Clerk will read the caption to a group of privileged resolutions.
A resolution recognizing and commending Diane Scoggins on the occasion of her retirement. Recognizing, commending, and congratulating Jedediah G. James Lee. Recognizing and commending Staff Sergeant Nicholas Davis. Recognizing and commending Keith Hunter for his outstanding service to the United States and to the state of Georgia. Commending the Physical Therapy Association of Georgia and recognizing February 13, 2018 as Physical Therapy Day at the state capitol. Honoring Tracy Rookard Shaw and recognizing Evolving Excellence Inc.'s diligence in awarding scholarships to the students of Douglas County. Honoring Rita Facina Thomas and recognizing the Ademola A. Facina Thomas Jr. Foundation's diligence in awarding scholarships to the students of Douglas County. Recognizing October 1st through the 5th, 2018 as Georgia Pre-K Week at the state capitol. congratulating and recognizing Mayor W.L. Pug Mabry, recognizing and commending the Tau Pi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Inc., recognizing Leadership Dawson and Leadership Dawson class of 2018. Completes the privilege resolutions.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the privilege resolutions? The chair hears none, and the resolutions are adopted. If you have signed up for an announcement, make your way to the front of the chamber. Chair would remind those of you who have pages, we will be doing page photographs at the rostrum immediately upon adjournment. Chair recognizes for an announcement Chairman Dollar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Interstate Cooperation will meet upstairs in 403 upon adjournment.
Chair recognizes for an announcement Chairman Coleman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Want to remind everyone on the Education Committee that there will be a very important full Education Committee meeting immediately after we adjourn at 3 o'clock, room 506 CLOB. We have 3 important bills we're taking up. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Kendrick for an announcement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Tomorrow is the first ever Georgia Blacks in Tech Day of Action. You have a flyer on your desk. It's two-sided, so join us in the morning if you would like to hear from Dr. Camu Bob, who is from Georgia Tech, and he's very versed in technology and policy. And then on the other side, the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus is sponsoring a communications and technology symposium. So I hope to see some of you tomorrow and then again in the afternoon. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes for an announcement Representative Elam. Chair recognizes for an announcement Representative Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Reeves Subcommittee of Judiciary Non-Civil will meet in room 406 in the CLOB immediately upon adjournment.
That completes our announcements. The chair recognizes the Majority Leader of the House for a motion.
Mr. Speaker, I move that this House stand adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow, Tuesday, February the 6th, 2018. Back it up on you.
Majority Leader has moved that this House be adjourned until Tuesday, February the 6th at 10 o'clock a.m. All those in favor of the motion will say aye. Those opposed will say no. The ayes have it. This House will be adjourned until Tuesday, February 6th at 10 o'clock a.m.